this afternoon are a lot of good prospects. Andrew, who I'm teamed up with on camera today, and I have come into this area where we last left Karula, a female leopard who finished off a vervet monkey kill that she made just up on our left. Evident sign of her from the get-go, but we'll keep there. And just to give a little bit of background on what's been going on there, especially for the new viewers who may be positive for rabies, and what the management of this reserve have done is they inoculated him once with the rabies inoculation, and then further going on there, especially for the new viewers who may be positive for rabies, and what the management of this reserve have done is they inoculated him once with the rabies inoculation, and then furthermore, with the help of the state vets, have decided to relocate him to a safe environment where he can be very closely treated with further inoculations which are going to be required for his well-being, as well as animals, but also us as humans. And that's why it needs to be treated exceptionally delicately. And I think the management of this area have done an exceptional job so far. It's very difficult dealing with what do have a virus, but they are doing everything in their power to ensure the best possible future for this leopard. So I'm sure a lot of you are going to get updated, but like I said the other day, let's leave the professionals to do what they need to do and not bombard them with a million questions from us or from you guys or from whoever it may be, in the faith that they are doing the best possible job to get this leopard back on track. So that's the news, and we will be sure to keep you updated on any future developments on his progress, on his treatments, as soon as we get them. So that's the updates on Sindile, and we are now going to continue our safari with positive thoughts for the future of that male leopard. I think that is the best thing all of us can do, and I think we need to take our hats off to the people again who are doing everything in their power to ensure that leopard's well-being. I've actually been doing a bit of research on rabies, and as I'm no professional, I'm a safari guide, not a vet or a professor of deadly viruses. But for those of you living in America, interestingly, your biggest chance of contracting rabies is through bats over there, whereas very, very small chance of contracting it through dogs. But it does vary depending on where you are in the world, and dogs seem to be the main vector or carrier of this virus. And Asia and Africa, because both continents have large populations of stray dogs, are the most heavily affected. And in 2010, I think over 20,000 people died of this horrible virus. That gives you an idea just of how serious it is. Now I'm just going to check this road very carefully, because on the way into this area I checked Philemon's cut line, which would have been Karula, the female leopard we're looking for now's route to the Juma waterhole for a drink, which was my prediction, but no sign of her tracks going in that direction. Could have missed them, of course, but didn't see her heading that way. I'm not sure if any of you saw her at the Juma waterhole cam at midday. And for any of the new viewers, it's important that I mention something, or a few things that I have yet to, and that is that this is a live safari. It's happening this very second, and you guys can get involved and ask questions and send through comments and thoughts by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or sending an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Interesting stuff. No sign of her tracks coming out here. Maybe she's still sleeping in this riverbed. Maybe she's moved off to find some shade. There's a riverbed just below that dip where Andrew's showing you now. Like I say, it's incredibly hot, probably around 35 degrees Celsius. I'm not too sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's hot and humid. But we'll cool down, and when it cools down, I'm sure we'll start to see a lot more life, hear a lot more bird calls. But while it is still hot, I'm gonna ping pong from waterhole to waterhole in the hope that we'll find some animals seeking the cool, muddy waters. Like I said, Jamie was going to pop in to see if the Birmingham coalition of 5 male lions were still in the same place, and I think she's ready to give you guys an update on that, and we'll catch up a little bit later on.
Oh, good afternoon everyone, and as you can see, the Birmingham Boys are indeed, as we expected, in pretty much exactly the same place. They've just moved as the sun has moved so that they can stay in the shade on this blazing hot summer day in Juma. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have Wium, the wildebeest, on camera with me this afternoon. And we thought we'd just pop in and see what these boys have been up to since the end of the sunrise safari. And it appears that that's not very much. They're all looking very relaxed and rather flat. There's some paws in the air and not very much happening on their side at all. Because it is so warm and there's only now just a little bit of a breeze picking up, Wium and I managed to score, I think, the only shady place in this sighting, which is of great relief to us. And I'm fairly certain that these Birmingham Boys are not going to be up to too much until much later when it starts to get cooler. But that being said, they are looking hungry. There's some very empty bellies, especially on the one that we know as Scrapper. He's looking very hungry. And I noticed when a couple of them have stood up and moved about and shuffled about, they're all looking like they could really use a good meal. And being opportunists that lions are, I think that they will be out and about hunting at some point in the next few hours. However, now is a good time for an afternoon snooze. I've just been taking the opportunity at the moment to just categorize and look at the various scratches and scars that they've been collecting, and they're all building up quite a collection. They're looking very, very like they couldn't be more at peace with the world. They've picked a nice spot because they've got enough shade actually, but they're also got enough, it's quite open. So they've got the breeze flowing over them as well. And I believe that they took Scotty quite by surprise this morning. I have seen the highlights. He definitely looked, when he jumped off the vehicle, he definitely looked taken by surprise. And that's one of the biggest reasons, was because last we heard, yesterday afternoon, it's sort of around the close of the sunset safari, the Birmingham Boys were all the way on the other side of Torchwood on the Kruger Park boundary. Now, I've been onto Torchwood. It's not a small property, and they've probably covered somewhere in the region of 20 kilometers last night, moving from there to here. And as to why they did that, that's going to remain a mystery to all but them. They might have been responding to other male lions calling. Either way, they are no longer accompanied by the female that they were with. And it seems as though their time mating with what we think was the Styx female has come to an end. So she will have returned to her pride. And I know that the Arethusa guides reported this morning that there was with 3 female lions, probably the Styx, somewhere around the Mala Triple M boundary. So if that is them, they're further south. And these boys, it seems, are done with their adventures into adulthood for now. And are quite happy to be back to just being a band of boys together. There we go. You can see it just above the eye as that piece of grass moves. I'll just wildebeest, can't you just hop out and grab that piece of grass?
Sure.
But he does have a little bit of a puncture wound, and around his ear as well. They're all covered in their own battle scars, but those are quite fresh.
A water thickney in shot, but Andrew couldn't resist showing it to you, and it was also because the Cape buffalo that we did have a visual of earlier has disappeared behind the vehicle. So I'm just going to reposition quickly. Seems like he's in quite a short and angry mood. Maybe that's because he's all alone and he's concerned that there could be some lion nearby. He's just left the waterhole and you'll see he's caked in mud. Well, there's a herd of zebra, probably 50 meters to 100 meters kind of in front of him in the direction that he's heading right now. So I don't know if he saw those from a distance and got scared and now he's going for a closer investigation. It would be brave if he was, because he's all on his own here. There's no sign of any other bulls. They usually travel in small herds. Well, the zebra ran off as soon as we arrived, so I'm guessing they're not going to be too relaxed with our presence. I'm not going to crash off through the bushes after them. And timing's everything on these safaris. If we had have arrived at the waterhole a few minutes later, we wouldn't have seen buffalo. And who knows what may come down while we're gone. I'm guessing what could well be the case is that he can smell the scent of the Birmingham males. They, I think, came through this general area this morning. And that's what's causing him to be on edge. Just trying to reposition to see if we could get you another view of him. He's running off through the bushes now. And he's not very close to those Birmingham males, so I don't think he's going to have to worry about running into them just yet, but who knows, maybe there's some other lion around. Or maybe the heat and humidity are just getting to him and he's going a little bit crazy. but you can quite easily get lost. They're coming right up to us. This is going to be awesome. Look at that. They're hunting in formation here, these zebra, not giving the grass a chance to escape. You can see how they're all shaking their heads and breathing out of their noses. That's to try and rid themselves of the bugs, and it's only a recent development. So obviously these bugs have only started hatching out very recently, because the zebra haven't been doing this until now, through the whole of the winter. Beautiful. Heading straight east towards the straight west rather, towards the setting sun. And it will be one male with his harem of females that he fights for throughout the year, ensuring that other stallions don't pull for any of them. And the easiest way for me to distinguish between male and female is by looking between their back legs as they're facing away from us. And the females will have a thick vertical black stripe that you can see when they wag their tail. Here's a good one. There we go. Whereas the males' bottom cheeks touch white on white. Oh, it looks like she's got one or two scratches on her rump, probably from lion. Close encounters, close shaves, quite often seen on the rumps of zebra. As you can imagine, those very powerful legs kicking backwards as any lion do latch on and the lion go flying off. Just going to reposition quickly. Going to spend another 4 or 5 minutes with these zebra, and then we'll start making our way towards the Birmingham coalition of male lions to see what they're up to. They could still be asleep, but I think it is worth us getting there in the next 10 to 15 minutes. They look like they've been scrubbed clean recently. Looking really immaculate this afternoon. And soon a lot of these females are going to start dropping their foals. And I can't wait to see some tiny baby zebras. Look at how beautiful this orange glow is coming through from the sun. Beautiful. Oh, there's a flock of guinea fowl up in the distance there. Let's see how this works out. Hello guys. You come to get some airtime as well. Bright blue heads and that funny crest. Which is a hard keratin crest. I think I saw Jean and the drone team disappearing off there on the top right of your screen. And now it's our turn to spy on them after they've been spying on us. When we arrived at the Djuma waterhole earlier, the drone popped up over the dam wall. And it was a pleasant surprise to see that they had found where we were after seeing us a little bit earlier. Let's stay on one for a while, Andrew, and a tight on the head, and see if we can't get to see them blowing their nose, because we've heard it so much that I think if we do invest time in one of them, we'll eventually capture it. They're all doing it. Come on. Show us what's going on here. Oh, the wrong one did it there. Well, now we've slipped into a bit of a trap, because now I'm going to not want to leave until we get to see this giraffe. I'd always get giraffe and zebra confused. How and why, I'm not too sure. As they are such different beasts. Well, I don't think we are going to get lucky with the zebra nose blow. So let's continue on with the original plan, and that is to slowly start meandering off in a westerly direction towards the Birmingham males. Thank you, Dazzling Dazzle. See you later. I believe the plan is that we are going to meet up with the drone shortly, and then you'll chop and change between either Andrew's camera or the camera dangling below the drone. As we make our way towards the Birmingham males, you're going to get some incredible views of the sunsets and the surrounding beauty. But I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. I wonder where Karula's gone, the female leopard that we saw devouring a vervet monkey this morning. There's been no tracks or sign of her, so she could pop out at any moment. She was just down to our left, about a quarter of a mile, when we left her this morning, and from there's been no trace of where she's gone. I've seen the drone, it's just up to our right, and now it's swooping across to the left, and we're just going to chop and change your picture, or at least Jess's in the final control, and I'm going to try and narrate to you what is going on. But it's a bit tricky because I have no idea where the camera on the drone is pointing, so not the easiest business. And basically everything to my right is the quarantine clearings. Everything on the left of it is some very thick bush where a small riverbed flows. And we're going to take a left turn, which will take us more directly into the sun towards the west very shortly, and you're probably going to be able to see that road at any moment. And the lions are between the drone and where we are now. Well, sorry, on the other side. The drone is between where we need to go and where the lions are. This road doesn't actually have a name, so I can't provide you with that, but it's, I guess, a link from the western edge of quarantine to Zoe's Road, which is where we're heading to now. And then once we get up to the next road junction ahead of us, we're going to take a sharp left. We're all lucky to be spoiled with these wonderful views from the ground and the air. From where we are going to be with the line, we're not going to be on a vantage point to enjoy the sunset, so I'm glad the drone is up much higher than us, providing you with a good vantage point. I'm guessing in the next 5 to 10 minutes that sun would have completely disappeared. Lots of game paths moving through the thicker bush that the animals will use as highways to get from A to B. And that's often what we track along, or use to walk along when trying to track animals off in these big thick blocks, which may look deceptively open from in the air. Everything on the right of me now is a very big open clearing, but on the left and in front there's a lot of terminalia thickets, silver cluster leaves. We are going to get up to another road junction where we're going to veer hard left shortly. Right would take us back towards Vulture access, the main access road for guests coming to stay at Juma, either at Vulture camp or Galago camp, the two Juma camps. Whee! Bless me. Excuse me. Bless you. Thank you. Well, welcome back, everyone. And the drone's just whipping off in front of us there. And I'm sure it's going to have maybe one or two more good views of that sunset before we get to the line, which are probably about 250 meters ahead of us. Hope as we make our way towards these lions that they are showing some vague signs of life, which I fear they won't be, but we can hope that I am wrong. But they're generally quite late risers. It's certainly going to be worth taking a closer look. And kind of like this morning, we never know what may bump into them, even though the buffalo that did stumble upon them were left to carry on grazing without the lions causing any trouble, but that could be different this evening. vulture that I can see perched up in the tree ahead of us. And it obviously saw these lying here and decided to come in to check if there are any possible droppings to feed on. And as presumed, the lions are all fast asleep. Very good, Andrew. And I hope you enjoyed that sequence with the drone following us along. It's going to now head back to Pilot Gendre. And we're probably going to have to reposition and shuffle around a bit. The lions aren't in the best spot, and what I'm thinking of doing is actually continuing and leaving Andrew here. There's probably only space for one vehicle to get a decent view. So rather than getting Andrew's way, we can continue on, do one loop around this block. Possibly we'll bump into Karula, and that way we can leave Andrew to get his guests a good view. No problem, Andrew. There's the hooded vulture. That one quick look at that before we head off. To do that, I don't even know if it's humanly possible. The stench and odor of a lion dropping is quite unbearable. Yet this vulture will be happy to feed on it if there's no meat around. It's the next best thing, and that's probably why it's lurking about here. It's at the bottom of the vulture pecking order. You would have noticed it had a very thin beak. Cheers, Andrew. Cheers, everyone. Enjoy. We'll see you later. And it's designed to feed on the last little scraps of the kills, where its beak can get into little areas where the larger vultures, like the white-backed vulture, the Cape Griffin vulture, lappet-faced vulture, where their large beaks cannot get into. Interestingly, other vultures won't really feed on lion droppings or other predator droppings, but the hooded vulture is happy to do that. Moo! Sends shivers down my spine just thinking about it. Now, please don't feel like I'm not interested in spending time with those 5 male lions with you. I just can't help but feel that we can try and find you something else that is showing some more signs of life that will be more entertaining to observe while those lions remain comatose. And we are going to send you across to Jamie to see what she's been up to and what her plans are. And hopefully one of us is going to get lucky with some action before we head back to those lions.
Well, welcome back, and I'm hoping that one of us will get lucky in terms of action that we might see in the bush. And I'm just driving along what's known as Ingwe Alley, and the reason for that is supposedly it's become an unofficial road, or an official road from being an unofficial road, because so many leopard sightings happened in this area. Now, Karuna was in the drainage line with the monkey this morning, and that drainage line extends all the way from Philemon's Dip along to the east and along here. And I have seen her here before. This is where, if some of the regular viewers remember, I had my first proper sighting with her, not a brief glimpse, but a proper sighting, when she devoured a steenbok from start to finish in the drainage line. So what I've come to do is just check along here, and if this fails, then I'm going to head across to Treehouse Dam to see if she comes across for a drink. We'll definitely be keeping an eye out for her. Sometimes the best way, especially in a thick area like this, is to find a nice place to stop and then just listen for alarm calls. But keep your eyes peeled. If she is around, this is a perfect time of day for her to be moving. Oop. One thing about it being an unofficial road is it comes with many bumps as well that need to be slowly smoothed out. Let's see if we can spot a flash of spots moving through the grass, or even up in a tree to take advantage of some of the breeze that's been blowing. Looks like it's been a while since anybody's traveled down here. There's a couple more elephant roadblocks while they've been around. Daisy. I'm just going to go down to this corner and then I'm going to stop for a moment and just listen. And whilst we do, we can see if we can capture some of the last colours of the sky. It's a bit thick down here. The one thing about this road, it's very difficult to see tracks. This is where she likes to be. She's got a couple of pathways here that she uses regularly. Eat that monkey today, so if we don't have any luck here around the drainage line, then I'm going to head across towards Treehouse and see if maybe she's gone that direction for a drink. Stop here for the moment and let's just listen to the sounds of the bush and what's happening. It's also a nice time of day to stop and listen because all of the birds are doing their various evening chorus calling. Yeah, the Cape turtle doves singing Work Harder. Beautiful evening, it really is. That breeze from earlier has completely died down. It's still very, very warm, but it's completely silent. There's a couple of bird calls, and then beyond that there's just the vast expanse. And to know that we're sitting in 3 million hectares worth of wild land and wild territory, you could just sit and listen to the silence. There's no traffic, there's no sirens, there's no helicopters coming over. It's just pure, untouched silence with a couple of birds calling over the top of it. It's beautiful to hear. But definitely no indication of Karula though. I think let us continue on our mission. Look at that beautiful, beautiful sky. Alright, let's carry on towards... Oh, bless you, Biam.
Thank you.
On we go. As I said, 3 million hectares. So if you can imagine 3 million, roughly 3 million soccer fields, just to give you a rough idea as to size. It's an absolutely vast area. You've been seeing the footage from the drone, and we have some questions about how long it takes us in terms of our traverse area once we're done driving around on our 3-hour safari, how long it takes us to get home every night. So Marie and Susie I think it was. You'll have to forgive me if I'm making any mistakes. Every now and again my radio is a little bit crackly. But you wanted to know how long it takes us. Depends on where we are and what plan we're doing. So for 3 hours we're not going away from home all the time. We traverse quite a small section between Djuma and Arathusa game reserves within the Sabi Sands, within the greater Kruger area. So it just never really takes us longer than, say, half an hour to get back from maybe the far western boundary of Arathusa, maybe a little bit longer if we're over there. Also Dam, it might take about 20 minutes or so, but it's 20 minutes or 15 minutes, however long it is, very well spent. It's one of my favorite times of the day because it's just after dark and you can start heading back home and keeping an eye out for all of the magical things that you might just get to see. For example, we had that wonderful moment with when Scott was on camera with me. I can't remember what it was that precipitated that lead. I think there was a bushwalk out and one vehicle. Anyway, Scott was out on camera with me that day, and we just closed down. And about 5 minutes later, as we were driving out from the Arathusa Dam, we bumped into Kutile. It was my first time I've ever seen her. And then we noticed Tingana sitting on a termite mound, and it was just before they started that frenzied pattern of mating that they did for the next few days. And she was busy flirting with him and wiping his face with her tail. Just checking for Karula feet, but there's no Karula feet here. Picks a nice sand patch to check there. She was just over there. Looked as though she was going to disappear into the donga. One thing I've learned with Karula though, she doesn't always go where you expect her to. Anyway, so that drive, that was on our way home. Such a nice surprise. And just because we could, we went live with it again. And we tried to send the message out as quickly as possible to say, you know, we've got this incredible sighting. If you guys are still watching, we're going to go live again and show you. Very carefully in this drainage line. Probably the longest it took me to get home for quite a long time was it Sunday evening? I think it was Sunday evening when Jandre and I were driving back from Arathusa. And the car was stuck in low range, which meant a very, very slow journey for us. Just double checking that I'm not seeing leopard tracks here. Doesn't look like it. There's a drag mark in the dirt. Now, those of you regularly acquainted with the practices of leopards will know that when they do kill something, they very often drag it, especially if it's a steenbok or a dake or something a little bit bigger than a monkey. They'll drag it along the road for a while, and they make these perfect drag marks in the ground. In this particular case, though, I think it's a branch that I'm seeing that was stuck under somebody's car. It was just too perfect the way that it moved along the road. And the fact that it's still here and there's no leopard tracks on either side, I think is the giveaway. Stick under a car. Pretty easy to pick up passengers that way. Question from one of our regular viewers, Raisa in Finland. Now Raisa wants to know, it's a really good one, what happens if you've got a guest in your vehicle and you're out on safari and they want to go home for some reason? Say for example you're watching a kill and they find it too graphic, or they're panicked or nervous about a situation, or even in some cases I've had where they're not ill, they're just not they're feeling a bit under the weather and they've decided that they'd like to go home. Sometimes occasionally related to their activities the evening before. And it's an interesting one, especially if you are very far from the lodge. What I've done in the past when that has happened to me, if it's a panic situation, then you leave. You leave the sighting especially, because that becomes a danger not only to yourself but to the guests and to the animals. So it's time for you to go. But remember that all lodges are in radio contact with each other. And regardless of whether all of their safari vehicles will be out, they will have other vehicles that will be around. So what you could do in that situation, depending on where you are, is to radio the lodge and say that you have a guest who isn't feeling well, who'd like to go home, recover themselves slightly, and then you arrange to meet halfway. And you just have to be good about explaining to the rest of the guests that it's not going to in any way impact on their experience, and that you will be returning to the sighting or heading out again afterwards. It's just a matter of using your discretion. Obviously, if it's a serious illness or anything like that, then you race home and you just explain it. Obviously, most of the guests are going to understand that kind of situation. Yeah, either this is the world's longest drag mark or it's something stuck under somebody's car, because it's been with us all the way from that day where I first noticed it. I have had a situation before where I've turned the vehicle around and ended the safari. It's only happened to me once, and it was with kids who weren't behaving. And they were screaming and having a tantrum, and I'd asked nicely, and eventually I just got to the point where I said, no, we're going home. And sometimes you do have to do that. It doesn't often happen, but it can. Thing, of course, about the live safari, that short of Wium really needing to head back to DRC for some reason, is that we're never going to be interrupted by anything except possibly a heavy downfall of rain. And at the moment, that doesn't seem very likely, does it? Looking at the weather. So for now, we've got absolutely no interruptions, except, of course, the attack of the gremlins every now and again. But we still stay out for as long as possible when that does happen. And the occasional, very occasional, breakdown of a vehicle. And considering what they do every day, twice a day, they are fantastically loyal. Alrighty, well, I'm coming up closer to Treehouse Dam now, but I want to check the ground very carefully for tracks. So whilst I do that, let's head back across to Scott and those lines, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone, and it seems our 10-minute kind of paid off. 4 of them are still asleep, 1, 2, 3, and 4, but number 5 over here, you'll see, is grooming himself, so that's a good sign. Getting ready for enough time for the rest of them to get their acts together and show us a little bit more action than we have seen from them today. And Eric in Idaho has just sent through a comment saying we should call them the Vegetarian Coalition as opposed to the Birmingham Coalition. And I agree. Maybe the Salad Boys or the Couscous Kings. after their performance this morning. A lot of you may think that there was some buffalo about 40 meters away from them, and they didn't even get up and chase them. But in their defense, they did move a massive distance last night, and may have been trying to hunt buffalo the whole night, so could have been exhausted after many failed attempts. Even for 5 big male lions like this, it's not an easy task to bring down a Cape buffalo. What we can assure you though is that they are, oh, here we go, get some screenshots. And if you are a new viewer and don't know how to take a screenshot, I would suggest finding out how to. It's usually very easy, but depending on your device there will be different buttons that you need to press. But a great way of documenting what you see on Safari. So now we're back to square one, but at least Andrew can take you on a tour through the rest of them. Oh! One's flicking his tail dangerously close to his mate's mouth. I wonder if I should reverse a bit, Andrew, to see if we can get you a view of that other one in the background there. That's just a little bit behind. That's lying completely flat on his back. Can you see that one from there? Not really.
That one or that one?
The one that's on its back, almost with its belly in the sky. Look at this. Oh. It's a tough life being a male lion. But don't be fooled by how docile and seemingly cute they appear now, because when need be they can turn it up and become quite dangerous, even to their own species. They've killed a number of lionesses as they've marauded through this area. And that's common for new coalitions who are establishing themselves in any given territory. Often lioness and the prides that they live in will meet these new males with a bit of apprehension, and that apprehension can lead to the males getting a little bit worked up and carried away and killing some of the lioness that they could well mate with in the future. Well, Leslie in California's noticed a lot of scars and scratches on the faces of these lion and others, and is interested to know what would be the major cause for these scratches. Would it be hunting, fighting with other lions, or mating? And I think it'll be mainly fighting with other lions, quite often their own coalition members over food, or own pride members over food. And when they are at the dinner table, they forget about how much they care for one another, and the biggest and strongest will bully the rest in order to get to the best points of the kill. Andrew's just going to have to tweak the camera, although I think he's already gone down to his final setting. So we're going to try and lighten things up here with a spotlight. There we go. So fighting with other coalitions, fighting amongst themselves over food, and also mating. The mating can be a very aggressive and violent affair, no different to the leopards. And some of you would have been lucky enough to see Tingana and Kwatile displaying this aggression. And they lash out at one another as the male dismounts, as it's a painful process for both of them. You're not uncommon to see males and females with bloodied noses. after and during mating. The more likely wounds that they would get from hunting would be big gashes from animals like warthog and buffalo, who will fight back against lion. But most of the other horned antelope will not put up a fight, will not realize to use their horns. They'll obviously try and escape, but they won't physically try and attack their attackers. Warthog, interestingly enough, are incredibly powerful and brave for their size, and will try and lash out with their sharp tusks that grow out of their bottom jaw. Elizabeth in Canada would like to know, where exactly are we located in relation to the live camera at the Wium waterhole? And it's behind us, probably about 1 mile away as the crow flies. If you remember where Jean-Andre started filming us as we were driving along the western edge of quarantine, the Wium camp's just a little bit to the east of that, maybe 500 meters on the opposite side of the quarantine clearings to where we were. So not far away at all. And who knows, maybe they're there for a drink. They do know that there is that little water hole there. So that is a probability for later on this evening, and definitely going to be worth keeping an eye out on that cam. Not only for these lion, but who knows, maybe Karula could pop in for a visit as well. And it always puts a big smile on my face when I hear that my friend Isabella, aged 4, is on the safari with us. And she would like to know if any of these lions have become daddies yet. And Isabella, not just yet, but hopefully in the next few months, they will become daddies, and we will be lucky enough to see them with their new babies. But just yet, I don't think they have started any families. But they have been seen trying to. They've been seen with the Nkuhuma lioness, who I think are going to be these guys' new girlfriends. And together they will hopefully start a family. Because we've got no cubs around at the moment, no leopard cubs, no lion cubs. But I think it's going to change in the very near future, so that's something to look forward to. What we can also look forward to, Isabella, is that these lions are going to become much bigger, and their manes are going to become very fluffy. They are still becoming big men, but at the moment you could almost say that they're teenagers. They're not quite full adults yet. Sorry, poor old Andrew's having a nightmare here, because we're in the unfortunate situation where we can't get into a very good spot to light up these animals. They're all so spread out, and there's so much thick bush around us. So while we wait here for these guys to get their act together, we're going to send you across to Jamie for an update on how her search for Karula is coming along. Enjoy and good luck.
got her act together and appears to have moved out of the area somehow. She must have flown because none of us can find her tracks. I'm still on the search for cunning Karula. I stopped for a while at Treehouse Dam just to listen for any alarm calls or any kind of indication that she might be on her way to come and drink down there. So last ditch attempts in the few moments of the sunset safari, the last few minutes, the last 20 minutes, is to head back to where she was last seen, because maybe, just maybe, she spent the day under the shade of a guarri bush further in the drainage line. And if we are right about the theory about her having cubs around Buffelshoek Dam, she might decide that now that it's a bit cooler, it's time to move off and start heading back to them. So I'm doing a big loop and then heading back to where she would pop out if she was to take that line. Now I suspect if she was going to head back to the cubs, she'll take her usual route, which is to go across Quarantine and then towards the back of the lodges and around those drainage lines there where I first saw her, in that block close to where we saw the elephants. And I'm heading across in that direction now. Keeping the movements nice and slow though, just so I don't miss out on any other little critters who might be running about in the night. Retained plenty of heat, which is how we know that summer is really properly truly here. Usually in winter, even though the nights are freezing, the days can get quite hot, and it's only when the sun disappears that you start to feel that chill. But in summer, with a couple of really hot days just like we've had, the earth starts to absorb all of that heat and then radiate it, even after the giant ball of fire has set. Although admittedly I could probably remove my hat. Might not be that necessary anymore. Oh, can you hear the cicadas? Just an explosion of volume there as we drove through. That high electronic sound. And the wonderful thing is that's a sound that everybody is familiar with. And definitely one of my sounds that just always makes me think of the bush. Working in the Kalahari many years ago, or living in the Kalahari many years ago, one of my favorite things about it were the little barking geckos. They almost sounded like frogs, but they were positively deafening at times. I just remember those long summer evenings with the sun setting red over the red dunes and the purple mountains at the back. Hands down one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in. It's in the southern Kalahari, so also known as the Green Kalahari. Not quite complete desert. Oh, I think I imagined that, but I'm just going to go back and check. Just a light spot on the tree. My other mission for this evening, if time allows and if I choose to accept it, is going to be, I definitely imagined it, I spotted a light patch on a branch, to find you that Scops owlet, or Scops owl, that lives on Quarantine. smallest owl that we have in this area. Definitely one of the cutest, and ever present outside the FC room. So I'm going to combine my search for Karula and the spotted cat to one of our smallest little aerial predators. See if I can find that little Scots owl for you. It's been a mission of Scott and mine for a while. I don't think either of us have managed it yet. I know I haven't. But that's definitely on the agenda. Whilst I continue my search for Karula, and since Scott does have those beautiful lions to show you, let's head across to him for now, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. And we have repositioned into a spot where we can illuminate both, or all of them rather, kind of well. 3 of which sadly are dotted behind the individual that you can see in screen now. And at this stage, we would need a small miracle to expect any changes before the end of the safari. But like I said earlier, the good news is that there is a strong chance they're going to pop up at the Djuma waterhole later. And hopefully you'll be able to maybe see them there, or not only see them, also hear them roaring. We didn't share any vocalizations early this morning. Well, I'm a very deep sleeper, so I certainly didn't. And it's interesting how sometimes they keep quiet, yet other times they are extremely vocal. I guess it all depends what's going on with the other lions in the area, which they've got a much better idea of than we do. You can hear all the crickets are coming alive, chirping around us. And it's a very still evening, so even though the sun's gone down, it's still quite hot. Hardly a breath of wind. Well, good evening to Joyce in New Hampshire, and thanks for sending your question through. Joyce would like to know if I think that these boys have staked claim to Djuma and surroundings. And yes, I think they have. For now, they are the only big males moving through this area. The Matimba males, the 2 older males that they chased away from here, have shown no sign of coming back just yet, but that could change in the future. Either them or possibly even the Majingalan coalition, which is a coalition of 4 big males, also older and experienced. But a lot depends on the dynamics around us. What may happen to the north of us in the Manyaleti may have ripple effects of what happens here. But for now, it certainly appears that nobody is challenging them, and for now I think it's safe for them to assume that this is now their new home. And if that is the case, it could well be that they reign dominant here for the next kind of 3 to 5 years, unless of course there's a major upset and another large coalition comes through. One thing that could happen is that they could be unfortunate, and they do split up from time to time, and sometimes one of them's all on his own, sometimes it's groups of 2 and 3, but when they do split up, they could run to another coalition. Even the Matimba males and possibly get killed in a battle and therefore lose a lot of strength to the coalition as a whole. So there are so many variables that could unfold. But the major factor, I guess, now is that nothing seems to be challenging them. Nobody seems to be querying their arrival. Oh, nice big yawn. And a big stretch. And back to bed. Update on another one of the big cats that we had spent time with out here at Juma, because some of you have only joined the show more recently. And it's an update on Sindile, a young male leopard. For those of you who are joining for the first time, I'll give you a little bit of the history behind what's happened. Basically, about 2 weeks ago, this young male leopard, who's just about a year in age, caught a domestic dog that was running through the reserve. It's a dog that had broken into the reserve from the surrounding communities, and sadly that dog was rabid. The dog was exterminated as a Sabi Sands policy, as most often, almost 100% of the time that dogs are found in the reserve, they are rabid. They're more inclined to come into the reserve when they're infected with rabies, which is a deadly virus to most warm-blooded animals, including us as humans. And once you've got it, there's a 99% chance that you will die. So it's a very, very serious virus that can spread like wildfire. And because he was in contact with this domestic dog, certain measures have been taken to ensure the safety of, first and foremostly, the other animals within this reserve, the humans within this reserve, and also the individual leopard who was in the wrong place at the wrong time when he caught that domestic dog, unfortunately. And what has happened is they have removed him to a safe location where he can be closely treated. It's a series of treatments that he has to undergo to make sure that he doesn't have rabies, and they are closely monitoring him, looking after him. He's in good hands, and there are professional people doing everything in their power for the best interests of that leopard's future. Now, there are a lot of questions I'm sure that you guys are interested to know about rabies and what if this and what about that. But to be honest, I'm no professor on viruses, and I'm a safari guide, so I'm probably not the best guy to be asking. And the people who are busy looking after him are busy. There's a rabies epidemic or outbreak in the surrounding area, and they've got a lot on their hands at the moment. So I think the best thing that we can do is have positive thoughts for this young male leopard and have faith in the people that are doing everything in their power to look after him. So he is away from us for now, and we will keep you updated on any updates we get as soon as we get them. So we're all in the same boat here. We all became very affectionate and spent so many hours with him. So it's far from the ideal, but it's a necessity, the action that has been taken. And like I say, let's just think positively and keep enjoying the other animals and being on safari in the meantime. Oh, there's a cicada that started. A loud stridulating drone that you'll be able to hear. Oh, Andrew spotted another lion flat on its back. Let me get the spotlights up to better illuminate it for you. Look at that. Paws high in the sky. I've actually seen lions roaring from that position, which is hard to believe. Flat on their back, filled with buffalo meat. Well, there's only a few minutes left of the safari, so we're going to send you back to Jamie. Maybe she's going to get lucky in the last few minutes that she has you in her search for either Karula or the tiny scops owl that she said she was going to go and seek out. So good luck with that, and we'll be waiting here with the lions to say our goodbyes a little bit later.
Well, welcome back. and I find myself in the middle of quarantine just listening to the sound of the little scops owls all around me, and I haven't managed to locate one of them in time, so it'll just have to be something that waits for tomorrow afternoon. But that little burp sound is the little scops owl that I'm looking for. There's 3 of them. There's one there, there's one there, and there's one there. So they're around us. I just haven't managed to locate them just yet. So a wonderful afternoon, still really, really warm, and hoping for a little bit of a break in this weather fairly soon and a bit of rain. No sign of Karula. She's pulled one of her mystery tricks on us and disappeared off somewhere. There was a big herd of impala in the middle of quarantine, so they would have been alarm calling if she was moving through here. Where she went, I just do not know. But so wonderful to hear from all of the new viewers, and great stuff. Please keep watching and send us through your questions. We love to hear from you. And of course, let all of your friends know, and we will be happy to follow all of the stories of the animals for you. A big thank you from myself and to Wium as well for all of his fantastic camera work, and to you, the viewers, for all your questions. And we will catch up with you tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari. Have a wonderful day and enjoy those last few moments with Scott and the Birmingham Boys.
Welcome back, everybody. Laura would like to know if there's any lioness that are trailing the Birmingham Boys, and not as far as we're aware, Laura. Haven't seen any tracks or signs of lioness in this area. Over the last few weeks, there has been quite a lot of time spent by the lioness trying to get to know these guys and understand them, and also teach them how to mate, because they are a new coalition. They have still yet to really master the art of mating, but we can expect to see a lot more mating with them in the coming months, once all of the dust has settled, as they have come through here, getting the new generations into the mix. So that's something to look forward to, and something that we've already got a glimpse of. But sadly, I don't think we're going to be seeing it tonight, Laura. Anyway, it's time to say goodbye, and thank you so much for all of your help and support. And keep telling your friends about the show. Please, like I said, the more people that know it, the more places we'll be able to take you in Africa and maybe around the world. Well done to Jess and Nikki in the final control room, to the drone pilot and team, Jean-Andre, Steph and Alex, and to the trusty cameraman, Andrew, who I was teamed up with today. Thanks so much. We're going to let you enjoy the last few seconds watching these sleepy lion, and we'll be out first thing in the morning trying to track them down.